Hey y'all, I'm Keto Diamond, and I accepted a collaboration with Princess Ninja and Keto to do a tribute to 9/11 called Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning? I wish I had not. I have made multiple attempts at doing this video, and there's no way I've gotten through it more than a few minutes without just pouring in tears. Luckily and unluckily, the youth of our nation do not remember these events. There's no way for them to really understand how much it affected the people and the nation and the entire world. When they said the world stopped turning, it did. The whole world came to a stop. And they could not believe what was happening. I had the good fortune, to witness these events thousands of miles away from the safety of my home, out in the middle of the country, out in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, I knew no one in New York City. I had no ties to New York City. But I cried more than I've ever cried in my entire life that day. That morning, normally, most mornings, I would get up and put on a VHS tape of Teletubbies or something for my children, because at the time, my son was 3.5 and my daughter was 1.5. They were very small. They're grown now. One's 19, one's 21, 2 grandbabies, but that morning when I got up and I turned on the TV, it was the news. I don't watch the news, and I wasn't really trying to pay it much attention, but I couldn't help but notice the smoke and stuff coming out of one of the World Trade Centers. And I paid attention, turned it up, and they were talking about the tragic accident of an airplane hitting the North Tower. And I couldn't believe it. How horrible. Those poor people on that plane, anybody who was upstairs in that building, that's awful, and it's right around the time for people to start being at work. Those buildings had to be full of people. It was just so tragic and terrible. And I sit down and I watch the news, and as I sit there watching, right in front of me, the second plane entered the South Tower. And I just screamed and cried. That's no frickin' accident. There's no way that happened like that. Within minutes of each other, 2 planes. And this was before they were screaming terrorist attack, And around about that point, the tune started changing. The media became far more serious. And at this point, the world stopped. It wasn't long before they started saying that there were more planes that they couldn't account for, that they were grounding all the flights, that they wanted everybody to land. Schools were going on lockdown. Government facilities were going on lockdown. Nobody was sure what the hell was happening. But we were watching on television as New York City filled with smoke, as people screamed and cried. They were bloody and they were bruised and they were covered in ash. And I'm crying my eyes out, and my son, he's so little, Mama, what's wrong? And I was just, trying to explain, but how do you explain that? It's not even possible. The whole event wasn't even possible. It shouldn't happen in America. It cried out loud. I had to pause for a tissue break. I've thought about that event so many times over the years. And even worse, of course, right there at the time for it to happen, when it happened. Because you know how many parents lived in New York City, and how many of their kids were at school when that happened. How many young children would have been around there, and people who couldn't reach their loved ones. Everybody was crying out. They were hollering on the news, look, I'm missing this person. Where is this person? Have you seen this person? And there were so many missing. It seemed like both a lifetime and only a minute later that the South Tower fell. And it fell with like 800 people inside of it, including firemen, people there to rescue. And I'm not going to lie to you, it fell in a weird way. In a way that I don't trust and I don't believe. I'm not trying to be political here, but something wasn't right with the way them buildings fell. I don't care. It just wasn't right. Then I think it was like an hour later, or no, about 30 minutes later, the other building fell. And I think there were 1,600 people still inside that one. I remember seeing the people jump and then like zoom in, and you just seen somebody and you realized what you were watching, but you couldn't turn away. And you know, they were playing calls and all kinds of different things, and just people, there was so much pain and anguish that day, and for days to come afterwards. It just, and people were truly terrified. The terrorists did their job that day. It was terrifying. It was horrific because you didn't know where the next plane was, where it was going to hit, if there were more. They didn't even know. I mean, the authorities had no idea. We don't know what's going on. We even lost firemen because they were in the building and we didn't know they were going to come down. Sorry. For that day, the world stopped. The entire world. There were people from other countries crying for us, feeling our pain as much as they would have had it been their own people. Because if you think about it, it was their own people. While we are so detached from each other, while we have so many grand differences, we are all human. And if that can happen in the United States of America, it can happen anywhere. Anywhere. The whole world was scared. The whole world was sad. The whole world hurt. And ultimately we lost about 3,000 lives. Seeing the wreckage of them buildings with the way one of those steel girders fell, that burned in my mind. I mean, seeing the second plane enter the building the first time was burned in my mind. I will never forget that. I will never forget watching the man in his business suit jump out the window. I will never forget how those steel girders fell. I don't think I will ever forget very much about that day. It's pretty burned in my mind. And while the youth of this country were fortunate to not witness that, they were unfortunate too. Because in the aftermath of that, our country came together. We really did. Our world came together. Not only did the world cry for us, they mourned for us. They felt the loss we felt. One of the most beautiful structures in the United States today is called the Teardrop Memorial. It is a memorial that was donated to America from Russia, from the Russian people, to memorialize 9/11. It's beautiful. It's a structure that basically shows the Twin Towers with a great jagged place down it and a steel teardrop. And when it rains, the rainwater runs around the tear and falls like drops of tears. Every name lost that day is etched into the stone. I'm going to show it to you real fast because a lot of people don't know that it exists, and it's beautiful. I even had my daughter make me a painting of it. You know what, if I can, the painting itself doesn't look like what it's supposed to, but I'm going to show you the painting so you can see that it is hanging on my wall. Sorry, I can't really get back far enough, but that's the painting Corey did for me. But anyway, the world did come together that day. And yes, I know what that painting looks like, but the world did come together that day. There were American flags being flown everywhere throughout the United States of America. Everywhere throughout the world. They were flying the American flag. And there's not much more beautiful than that flag. The symbol of hope and freedom. And I know in our divided nation now today, some people don't remember exactly what that damn flag stands for. But I wish you did. I wish you truly did. Because when them people came together like that, there were no racial divides. Nobody was one thing or another. It didn't matter if you were a New Yorker. It didn't matter if you were a Texan. Everybody cared. And everybody was family. This entire world was one great, big, loving, concerned, caring family. People went to church in mass. There were prayer vigils everywhere. There were people talking to you in stores you didn't know. Now, I'm talkative anyway. I'll talk to any damn body, but you know, most people aren't like that. But for weeks after that, everybody, how you doing? Are you doing okay? That was terrible, wasn't it? Everybody felt it. Everybody sensed it. Young kids were affected by it. And it was a horrific event. It was just horrific. There's really not much more to say about it, but I do want to say, wait, actually there is one more thing. A lady emailed me yesterday with her story about 9/11. She worked at Ground Zero, and I didn't ask for permission to tell the story. I didn't even know I was going to do it. But she was talking about how horrible and frightening it was. Hold on a minute now. Sorry, I was telling you the story that the lady sent me yesterday. She just started keto. She's learning, and she was telling me her story about 9/11, working at Ground Zero, and her hair, she's got some places in her hair where soot and different chemicals had landed on her head while she had to walk out of there for up to 2 miles, and through soot, ash, debris, scared and other panicked people. I can't imagine what that was like, and I can't imagine what losing somebody there was like. Because the event was traumatizing from North Carolina, from the middle of North Carolina. In the safety of my own home, the event was traumatizing. I cannot imagine what others feel in this moment on the anniversary. And I cannot imagine what they're going through. But to the people of the world who cried with us, who mourned with us, thank you. To everyone who lost someone, I am so terribly sorry for your loss. To the youth of this nation who do not remember, I'm sorry. Because while it was horrible, tragic, the aftermath, the way the people came together, was a sight to behold. It was amazing and strong and beautiful. To all the first responders who were brave even when they were terrified, thank you. And if you lost someone, I'm so sorry once again. Much love to all of y'all. If you need my help, feel free to contact me. Also, if you have a story of 9/11, if you have something you want to share, something you witnessed, whether it's good or bad, please post it below. Much love to all of y'all, and God bless.